Minecraft is a game full of colour. You can name any one of them you wanted and there's most likely a block to match it. There's green grass, blue oceans and the very red Nether dimension. But today, I plan to beat the game without touching any of them. Well, specifically vibrant colours that you would find on the rainbow. In fact, the only blocks I'm allowed to touch throughout the whole game are exclusively white ones. Now that you know all of that, it's no surprise that when we load up our world, we're going to be spawning in a snow biome. Because if we spawned anywhere else, we would be on a colour. We start off by chopping down a tree and using the snow to make sure we don't step on any green whilst collecting the logs. Now it's important to note that yes, I'm technically holding brown when picking up the logs, but this challenge is exclusively for blocks that I'm standing on. I can hold any items I want and break any blocks I want. So long as my feet never touch a block that isn't white, the challenge will be a success. But this makes things like going through portals almost impossible because whenever you enter a new dimension, you always spawn on obsidian, which is purple. But we'll get to that in a bit. First, we need to conquer the overworld, which isn't too difficult in a snow biome, but when we need to leave it, it can be a bit tricky. I need to collect a lot of snow so that I'm able to leave this biome whilst also having white blocks to stand on. Luckily, I found some pumpkins nearby which are an essential item to beating this challenge, so I bridged out and collected them. We then headed up the mountain and came across a village where I set up a little base and found an all-white bed, which meant we didn't have to worry about monsters in the night and can set our spawn freely. In the morning, I killed the iron golem and created my first snow farm, which meant we now had an unlimited supply of snow blocks, unlocking the world beyond the biome we were in. And that's pretty much all you need for the overworld. We can go anywhere we want to now as long as we're placing snow beneath our feet. And we needed to go far, like 4,000 blocks far. So I had a lot of snow to farm. But why put myself through traveling so far? Unfortunately, I don't have a choice. And now I feel is a good time to confess to you that I've already seen this world, and I've seen the Nether, but this is for good reason. Getting into the Nether is practically impossible unless you have it planned out beforehand. That's because there is only a very small amount of places we can build our portal, and it would be almost impossible to do so without actually knowing what biome your portal is going to spawn in the Nether. So before I started, I loaded up the seed in another world, went into the Nether and found the exact block I need to build my portal on in the overworld. It just so happened that it was 4,000 blocks away, so I packed up my belongings and headed out. The snow biome treated us well and we found a couple of villages, a shipwreck and its buried treasure, but unfortunately the snow came to an end. Knowing how many blocks I would need for this next part, I used the 2 diamonds I found to create shovels and farm a lot more snow. Now we just need to bridge the rest of the way. Unless of course you're a skilled gamer like I am, then you can just do this instead. Doing this was actually extremely beneficial. Not only was it much faster than ordinary bridging, it also meant I wasn't using up that much snow. But it was a bit precarious at times, so I did slow down just to make sure I didn't accidentally hit the grass. You may have also noticed my collection of lava and buckets I've been building. Due to my portal needing to be built in a precise location, I can't rely on a lava pool being nearby. So on my way, I made as many buckets as I could out of buried treasure and the remains of iron golems and filled them up with lava whenever I could. By the time I reached my destination, I had enough to make a full portal. But before I go in, I need to make sure I have everything I need, because it would be extremely inconvenient for me to have to come back out once I'm inside. So I found plenty of snow and then waited until nighttime so that I could collect an ender pearl, the item which is the only reason this challenge is possible. I mentioned before that it was almost impossible to go through portals, and in fact, until the latest update, it was impossible. But 1.21 added a very small change. You can now throw ender pearls through portals, meaning you can throw one through and you will land inside the Nether without ever touching the portal. This was just what we needed. The other issue though is that the Nether is mostly just red. But thankfully, there is one white block that spawns naturally. With our portal in the overworld built in just the right place, and positioning myself in just the right place, and lining up my crosshair with these few pixels, when we throw our pearl, we should be able to travel into the Nether without ever touching a block that isn't white. But all that work was just to get inside. We now had to traverse the Nether with a limited amount of snow blocks. There was a bastion nearby, so I headed there and managed to pull off a very precarious gold heist. I didn't fancy sticking around in there though, so I left as quickly as I could when I ran into a big problem. Ghasts. Oh, they break my snow, they break my snow, they break my snow. After just barely making it out, we found a lone piglin to battle with, but once again, the ghasts weren't planning on giving me an easy time. Running away was my safest option, so I had to leave the piglin. But thankfully, the Nether Fortress wasn't too far away, and we soon found a blaze spawner. The problem was, I was running really low on snow blocks. I used what little I had left to surround the spawner so I could fight without worrying, but it got out of hand really quickly. I had no shield and my axe was broken, so I had to resort to using a wooden one. But every time I took a break to heal, more and more blazes would spawn. Eventually, I made a makeshift trap so that I only had to fight one at a time and managed to get 6 blaze rods. We now had to make it back to our portal with the very limited blocks we had left. I was thankfully able to reclaim a lot of the snow used, and I could mostly just walk along the trail I had made all the way back. And we were also surrounded by quartz, so I could use those as well to give myself a few extra blocks I can stand on. And eventually I made it all the way back, but there was one last enemy blocking my way home. By the skin of our teeth, the Nether was complete. We had another long journey ahead of us though, finding the end portal. I only managed to get 3 ender pearls from the piglin, and I used 1 to get out of the Nether, so whilst travelling to the stronghold I had to try and farm every enderman I could. I managed to get 7 extra pearls. And miraculously, we didn't come across any oceans on the way. I think I would have just given up if I had to bridge across an entire body of water. After a long journey, the Eye of Ender finally headed down in the ground, and we carefully dug our way into the stronghold. While looking for the portal room, I came across a couple more ender pearls, and not too long, the end portal was in sight. There was no going back once inside, so I restocked on snow once more and lit the portal. But wait, I can't just jump through. If I do, I'll spawn on the purple obsidian. The key to getting through the end portal is someone that's been with us every step of the way. The true hero of this challenge, the snow golem. The plan is simple. I send a snow golem into the end before me so that it can cover the obsidian in snow, leaving me free to jump in and spawn on a white block. The plan was set. I gathered all of my things and sent my first snow golem through, but I also had no way of knowing if this would actually work, so as a failsafe I created a backup of my world so that I could reset if anything went wrong. Let's see if this works. It didn't work, it wasn't in the middle. Okay. So I had a couple kinks to work out. The snow golem was covering the obsidian, just not in the middle block that we spawn on. My first thought was to just wait a bit longer and hope the snow golem will move around on its own. But that wouldn't work because the chunks aren't loaded, so the golem won't move. Next, I tried to send in multiple at the same time in hopes one of them would spawn on the middle block. But nope, again, they all just stayed around the edges. I had one last idea, and that was to send multiple fruit on the same block in hopes that when each one spawns in, they end up pushing each other and hopefully spread to the middle. And it worked. I don't know if it was by fluke or if they did actually get pushed around, but we did it. We made it to the end without touching any colour. All that was left was to slay the Ender Dragon. I used snowballs to take out the crystals. I was finally able to use my bucket of powdered snow that I've been holding onto. And with everything we've been through, killing the Ender Dragon was probably the easiest part about this challenge. I just had to fill in the portal with snow, crouch once the dragon was purging, and slowly chip away at the dragon's health. And doing this enough times, eventually it led to the death of the dragon and the completion of the challenge, beating Minecraft without ever touching a single colour. I'll be honest, I don't know if white is a colour or not, that's why I specifically mentioned rainbow colours, but imagine a children's colouring book. One side is coloured, one side is not. It's up in the air, but white not being a colour makes for a much better title. If you enjoyed, subscribing would be really appreciated.